We're getting into issues about title. How do we take title over an object? And of course, the whole of the tractate of Bava Metzia is going to be focused on interpersonal types of relationships. So disputes between, let's say, person A and person B. So, of course, the question of how we take title over an object, how do we get legal ownership over an object, is going to be incredibly important. And the Mishnah picks up in this, we're in the second Mishnah of the first chapter of Bava Metzia. The first Mishnah was about two people who both found a cloak or a piece of cloth, and they walk into court holding it. They're both holding this cloth, and each one says, "Oh yeah, I found it. I found it." And the court has to decide how to deal with the dispute. So the Mishnah is going to pick up now the second Mishnah. Ayushnaim, maybe these are the same people, by the way. Ayushnaim ruchuvim al gabei behema. So two people, maybe the same people, they were astride an animal. They're both riding this animal. Or maybe one was astride and the other was leading. And I might observe, by the way, that one way you can take title over an animal is by leading it away, and another is actually by riding it. So they both taken title over the animal in some way. Ze omer kula sheli. This one says, one of them says, it's all mine. Veze omer kula sheli, and the other one says, it's all mine. It's as if they claiming that they've seen this animal wandering around in the field, or not in the field, in a public space. So they've seen a lost animal and they've taken possession of it. They've both taken possession of it. And again, we don't know which one had it first. So what are we going to do? This is a continuation of our Mishnah about the cloak. Remember, we were going to make this oath. We're going to make this oath that they each own at least half of it. They're going to make an oath that recognizes to a certain extent the possibility of the other's narrative. So this one is going to swear he owns at least a half of it. And the other one's going to swear that he doesn't own less than half of it. He owns at least half of it. And they're going to divide it. I don't think this means they're going to kill the animal, but they're going to divide its value in some way. Bisman, and by the way, they're going to take an oath. Bisman shehen modin, if they agree, notice, if they agree that they each have half rights, or sheyesh lahen edim, or maybe there are witnesses that they have half rights, cholkim shelo vishua, they can actually split it without taking an oath. We don't need to take an oath unless there's something in dispute. And in general, and we've learned this in Nedarim, the rabbis do not like swearing. They do not like oaths. It's a heavy thing to take an oath. If there's no need, we don't do it. Let's just carry on with this idea. So we had the lost animal. Let's move to the lost object. Actually, the whole of the second chapter of Bava Metzia is going to deal with lost objects. So as we go through the first chapter, we're gradually creeping up to that point. And we're going to combine the animal and the lost object. Someone was astride an animal and he saw something lost. He saw this lost object lying on the ground. Of course, he can't get to it. He's on the animal. So what does he do? He says to his fellow, give it to me. He says it to this fellow, look, pick it up, give it to me. And the other one takes it and says, oh, I've acquired it. Zachava, he's acquired it. The second guy, the guy on the ground who picked it up and declares, Ani Zachitiva, he has acquired it. This reminds us, by the way, of the famous Mishnah, someone who appoints his agent to go out and betroth a beautiful woman. And this agent goes out and betroths her for himself. And the halakha is exactly the same. The agent who's betrothed her, what is done is done. It might not be very honest, but what is done is done. And the commentators emphasize that the essential part of this Mishnah is the instruction which the rider gave to the person on the ground, Tanali, give it to me. He doesn't say acquire it for me. He doesn't make him an agent. He says, give it to me. Give it to me. And then, oh yeah, he takes it and he does give it to him. But he says, oh yeah, I give it to you, but I own it. If the rider had said, acquire it on my behalf, acquire it for me, that would have been different. And the Mishnah continues, Mishnah nalo amar ani zachiti vav techila. If after he gave it to him, he said, I acquired it first. So in other words, he just gives it to him. Of course, by seizing the object, the guy on the rider now does acquire title to it. He could have acquired title, or he could have laid claim to title by saying, acquire it for me. Okay, he said, give it to me. But as soon as he holds it, he does acquire title. The way you acquire legal title to a movable object is by taking it. So if subsequently the guy who picked it up says, Ani zachiti vatchila, I acquired it first, lo amar klum, he really hasn't done anything at all. Because he said it too late. He said it too late. Let's just take a couple more tiny examples. We've got time. Someone saw lost property and he fell on it. So he's covering it up with his body. Note, he hasn't picked it up. He's covering it. Now, maybe he owns the 4 amot around his space. Possibly. Depends whether he's in the private or public space. But let's carry on. Someone else came and actually took hold of it. Someone did the proper thing to take title. The person that took hold of it acquired it. Now, you can sometimes take possession just by virtue of space. Well, let's carry on with the Mishnah. Someone saw people running after lost property. Well, what kind of lost property, you might ask, are they running after? Well, it's clearly not a lost packet of sweets, because that would be static. So the Mishnah goes on, Achar gozalot shelo ferechu, achar tzvi shavur, achar gozalot shelo ferechu. Maybe they're running after a deer with a broken leg, or pigeons that haven't got old enough to fly. Ve'amar zachatli sadai. He said, my field acquires for me. And the Gemara, by the way, clarifies that this is somewhere where his field could reasonably acquire for him. In other words, he can shut his field, and they're in his field. So this is perhaps the analogy of falling on it, but in this case, they are on his property, and he's shut his field. And then that Mishnah rules, Zachatlo, he's got it, he owns it. But if the deer was running normally, in other words, you couldn't really lock it up in a regular field, or shahayu gozalot mafrichim, or the pigeons were just flying normally, and pigeons can go a long way. Ve'amar zachatli sadi, he said, oh yeah, my field acquires for me. Lo amar klum, he hasn't said anything. That's a situation where the animal is actually not trapped in the field. He hasn't really taken possession of the animal at that point.